What's up guys, it's Pliskin here, and welcome to the fourth and final part of my Metal Gear Solid 2 review. Today we're going to be going over all of the extra content and VR modes that elevate Metal Gear Solid 2 above the rest of the Metal Gear games. Specifically, there are four things I want to go over to get my point across. The first would be how the variety of content allows us and the developers to take full advantage of the game's sandbox. The second would be how the alternate story campaigns fill in that need to play a Solid Snake more, and seeing these alternate stories play out is kind of like playing through fanfiction, and that's pretty cool. 3. I want to go over how these modes put gameplay first by freeing themselves from the restrictive layout of the narrative. And 4, I want to talk about the importance of unlockables, not just in Metal Gear but in all games, and talk about how if this game didn't have these extra modes, unlockables would be severely lacking, and therefore replay value would be severely lacking. You can go through the best gameplay experience ever. However, if once you finish it, there isn't much of an incentive to go back and play, as you're gonna have to go through the same parts, or you're gonna have to deal with that one part you hate, or you're gonna have to just go through the same highs and lows all over again. Even the best of games could be left on a shelf to collect dust. However, adding in extra content, new playable campaigns, new game plus modes brings players back. Now, Metal Gear Solid 2 does this and more. Now, of course, you have all the difficulties to play through in the campaign, and it changes up where certain things get unlocked and spawn in. However, let's talk specifically about the extras and VR modes. First up, we have Snake Tales. After you play through the campaign, a lot of people had the complaint that, oh, I wanted to play Solid Snake more. Well, you have about 5 different stories that follow Solid Snake through a variety of different scenarios, using the game's existing assets, adding in new ones, and creating really unique situations that create a whole new gameplay experience, still within Metal Gear Solid 2. But we'll talk more about those later. We have VR, which has a whole bunch of different stealth exercises. You have sneaking mode, you have weapon modes that help you get to know the game's entire sandbox, and throws in all of these creative scenarios with weapons that you use maybe once or twice in the campaign, and gives me level designs that really show just how far these weapons can be pushed. You have mission modes, which are like VR modes, except they're a lot less. They tend to try to be a lot more immersive within the game's campaign, so you're playing through actual sections instead of these abstract, blocky VR worlds. Now, mission modes comes with hold-ups, which is an interesting subversion on the gameplay where you're not trying to sneak by or kill enemies, but you're trying to use the game's hold-up mechanic. And you get some pretty challenging set pieces, but also these scenarios that push you to play very differently. Use items that you probably wouldn't use in the campaign. A good example of this would probably be the porn magazines that you can pick up in the campaign. I barely use them, however in hold-up mode, they're a godsend as they help distract other guards that would otherwise see you. Mission modes also expands on one of my favorite parts about Metal Gear Solid 2, which are the bomb scenarios in which you have to find these invisible bombs and defuse them with the little liquid nitrogen thing that you get. However, these modes expand on them by having the normal bombs, by having bombs you can only detect by sound, bombs that explode if you get too close, and it uses different maps that we've played through before, like the tanker. However, using this whole new element of gameplay, it reinvents these maps and breathes new life into them. And I think that's amazing, as I can go through this game so many times over. I've been playing this, I think 2013 was the first time I started playing Metal Gear Solid 2. I've been playing this game over and over, trying all of these different modes since then, and I still haven't beaten all of the modes that there are to beat because there's so much of these extra content bits that just reinvent the gameplay or reuse old areas and refresh them with all of these neat little ideas. But now a little bit more on Snake Tales. Now, Snake Tales are great for a whole bunch of reasons. One of the most underrated reasons would be the fun stories that you get to take in. The footage you're seeing here is a Snake Tale in which Snake has to infiltrate a tanker off the coast of South America, and is doing a job for Meryl's father to try to rescue Meryl after she gets involved in a terrorist organization. It's interesting. If you feel like Metal Gear Solid 2 doesn't play into the things that happened in Metal Gear Solid 1 enough, or doesn't include the characters from Metal Gear Solid 1 enough, this is a great campaign for you. So you get to see Meryl here. You actually get to fight Meryl at one point, which is just insane. They reuse Olga's boss fight but retexture her as Meryl, and instead of using the USP, she starts using the Desert Eagle against you, which is actually more powerful. So they even tweaked the boss fight a little bit to suit the character. So it's an immersive little story that is mostly told either through the gameplay or through these little like fan fiction-esque paragraphs that you can go through. And it's really interesting. It's fun to play these alternate Metal Gear Solid 2s. Gameplay-wise, besides tweaking certain boss fights to suit their new narratives, you also have these Snake Tales reinvent the map, collectibles, the sandbox that's available to you, the guards that you see, the shortcuts on the map. Certain doors are unlocked, certain doors are locked. So it changes your entire standing when it comes to a certain map, because yeah, you've played through the campaign, so you're familiar with these maps. However, now that they work so different, or certain doors open and close, it's like you have to learn all of this all over again. Now that items are hidden in different areas and they're different items entirely, it reinvents your expectations going into this, and you really have to get good. For example, some of these can get really challenging and demand you to understand the sandbox of Metal Gear Solid 2 and how it works. There's this portion where in the holds, you have this forced combat section. Now, you don't have the map when you're going throughout this mission, so it's very difficult to sneak around. And when you get thrown into combat, the gameplay is revved up on a higher difficulty. So in the hold section, you are given assault rifles, a set amount of rations that spawn throughout the hallway level design, and infinite spawning enemies. So what this does is that you need to familiarize yourself. Okay, where are the ammo pickups going to be? Where are the rations going to spawn? And then you need to use that knowledge to play aggressively to push past the guard spawn points in order to make progress. So not only do you need to get to know the weapons, the rations, their placements, where the enemies spawn, you also need to get to know the game's cover system. Now in the campaign, you don't really get to use this a lot because combat is not incentivized because it's a stealth game. But in this section, understanding when to take cover, when to pop out of cover, and how to do so, whether you do it in third person, whether you do it in first person with the lean mechanic, is so important to your success. And the game demands that you understand this in this tough as nails combat scenario. One last thing before I move on from Snake Tales, still talking about this scenario here, is that towards the end of it, you can't just rely on your assault rifles, as once you reach the end, there's still infinite spawning enemies behind you, and Snake has to go through this animation to open a door. Initially, I thought it was impossible and the game was just being a piece of shit and not letting me open the door, but then I realized I need to utilize the entire game's sandbox. I have stun grenades and I have them for a reason. This door section, where I need to blind the enemies long enough to open the door, is that reason. So I love these Snake Tales because I feel like they're an embodiment not just of what could have been for Metal Gear Solid 2, but they push the player more. They understand that the player has gone through the campaigns, that they've probably played the VR modes. The game expects you to understand its mechanics and its sandbox, and it perfectly develops these different little stages for you to show your knowledge of the sandbox, of the gameplay. And I think that is brilliant. And for someone that comes back to Metal Gear Solid 2 a lot, this extra challenge is greatly appreciated and adds a ton of replay value. And again, I've been going over this one Snake Tale, but I believe, if memory serves correct, there's around 5 of them, each of them offering their own unique set pieces, story, sandbox, settings like this. And I think that is great, because not only do you get one instance where the game is just ranked up to 11, but you have a bunch to choose from. You have variety. Okay, now that we went over Snake Tales, let's go ahead and go back and talk about the VR missions in general now. Now there are a whole bunch of modes, way too much for me to go over in a single video here. So instead, I'm gonna bring up the ones that I feel, if I haven't brought them up already, really add something new to Metal Gear Solid 2. As I mentioned before, these VR modes are split up. You have VR modes, you have mission modes, each of them offering their different levels of immersion and challenge. The challenges are actually split between the different characters you choose to play as, but more on that later. However, within VR missions and mission modes, you also get these things called variety modes that you unlock as you go on further, playing through these different missions. One of my favorite kinds of variety modes is dark mode. Now, dark mode will spawn you in an arena where it is completely dark. Depending on who you're playing as, the levels of darkness increase or decrease. You don't have night vision, but your enemies do. So you have to sneak around using either the AP heart sensor, your flashlight, or just your wits and knowledge of the map to help maneuver these enemies that can see better than you. And as you stumble around in the dark, you'll find tools like the USP, the M9, the M4, the PSG-1. Maybe, if you know where you're going, or if you're just lucky, you'll come across some night vision goggles. There's high-ranking, combat status enemies on this map with shotguns, with AKs. There's trapped floors, there's floating sea mines that go around. So it is a very dangerous scenario that demands patience and mastery of the game's mechanics. If you get caught and you get into an alert, all of the enemies on the map are alerted and they will not go back into a state of calm. So you either know where you're going, or you're lucky enough to get this done through stealth, or you need to just run out, find an item, hope it's something helpful, and fight your way through this tough as nails mode. And I like that because it's a subversion of a trope in the stealth genre. In the stealth genre, we're taught to see shadows are our friends. We go into the shadows, we see fine, our enemies can't. This subverts that and forces us to deal with the reality of darkness, to deal with being less of a predator and more like prey. And overcoming that feels amazing. But that's not the only combat-focused set piece. You have boss rush modes that are outside of the VR modes that unlock if you beat the campaign. There are special modes within, again, variety modes that allow you to take on intense combat challenges, offering unique boss fights against Godzilla-type enemies, or just waves after waves of the tougher enemies you come across in the game, like the tank. You also get special modes like streaking mode, where you get to play as Naked Raiden and run around, and you have to go through this entire gauntlet of stealth, and if you get caught, you have to start all the way at the beginning, making it kind of like a roguelike. Then you have modes like photo mode, where you get to go through the maps, and this adds another element to Metal Gear Solid's gameplay that was introduced in the tanker mission, where you have to go around and take pictures of Metal Gear, but now the entire level will focus on that idea of taking photos, rather than it being some gimmicky thing that shows up once in a mission. And you get some pretty unique and, I dare say, funny photo modes. Another notable photo mode would probably be the one where you have to find Meryl somewhere in the tanker and wait for her to make a certain position before you can take the photo of her. Again, using this asset that I think is just really cool. Seeing Meryl in Metal Gear Solid 2 graphics is great, so yeah, that's my favorite one. If you remember I think it was in part 2, when I was going over the tanker chapter, I mentioned how I wanted to see more of Metal Gear Solid 2's brand of platforming implemented into the gameplay. Well, in VR missions, you get this a lot. Not only are there a lot more platforming opportunities in the standard sneaking maps, however, there's an entire variety mode mission that is devoted to platforming, dropping from ledges, climbing across them, dodging bombs while you're going across them, jumping, vaulting, timing your drops. It's very challenging and it's very engaging. Although I will say on the PS Vita, this mode is broken because the PS Vita has this thing where if you try to tilt it a certain way, it'll change the way you're looking or climbing. But if you have this on PS3, PS2, Xbox, or pretty much anything that isn't a PS Vita, you're gonna have a blast with these platforming modes. But perhaps what makes Metal Gear Solid 2's VR modes and extra modes so engaging is the fact that they act as the game's unlockables. Of course, in the campaign, you can unlock the bandana or different wigs or the stealth camo, but we want to get different costumes. We want to get unique modes, and these extra modes take that form for us. So for example, even outside of all these playable modes, you have Demo Theater or Secret Theater, I forget exactly what it's called, where you can play out certain cutscenes in the game, but you can switch the character models. I've had a lot of fun with this, maybe a little too much fun. But then, even back to the VR missions, the way the levels are split up, as I mentioned before, through difficulty is by the characters that you unlock. So you start with base game Raiden and base game Solid Snake with his attire from the tanker. As you play and unlock more missions, you unlock Raiden in a Grey Fox outfit. You unlock Snake in Pliskin's outfit. Then you get the tuxedo. Then you even get the MGS1 outfit rendered in Metal Gear Solid 2 graphics. You even get Naked Raiden for streaking mode. But there are your unlockable costumes, and not only are they unlockable costumes, but they're unlockable costumes that unlock even more gameplay experiences for you to partake in. And each one of these different outfits offer their own unique experiences within the game's VR modes. Now, why is this so important? Yes, costumes are cool and everything like that, but it's more so the feeling that you are achieving something within this game. Outside, the character achieving something in the story, you as a player are unlocking new experiences. You're earning these costumes. They almost feel like a symbol of status, and the challenges that come with them feel like they're being delivered to you because you worked your way up to become worthy of them. This is an addictive feeling, and this is something that'll keep you coming back to Metal Gear Solid 2 again and again. And this is where we start reaching the end of the video. To be honest with you, I thought that I'd be able to ramble on longer and longer, but the fact that I was able to just talk through everything that I wanted to talk through this quickly, in my opinion, just goes to show how it's so easy to identify what makes these VR modes so great and so fun. So to sum up everything that we've gone through, we have the variety of content, we have the snake tales and the stories they offer, we have all the situations in which gameplay elements that were brushed over in the campaign really get focused on here. And then, of course, we have unlockables and their importance to that feeling of progressing and earning these new experiences and bringing us back for more. And it's all of these reasons that constitute why I think Metal Gear Solid 2 is objectively the best Metal Gear game. I think Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3 are equals in almost every single regard. Each game offers their own depth of gameplay in a different way. Each game is immaculately designed in terms of its levels. Each game has brilliant ideas, great story, although Metal Gear Solid 3 probably has better boss fights, but I digress. The one thing that I feel Metal Gear Solid 2 has that makes it trump Snake Eater are these extra VR modes and other extra modes that are in there. These unlockables, these things that you can keep coming back to, these new challenges that push you further than the campaign ever could. I've replayed through Snake Eater about as many times as I've replayed Metal Gear Solid 2. However, there comes a point where I start feeling like I'm too good at Snake Eater. I'll play through the game and a lot of it won't be a challenge because I know the optimal strategies. I know ways to break certain boss fights. Metal Gear Solid 2, it just challenges me more and it offers more new things. Again, I still haven't unlocked everything because it's such a challenge and there's just so much there to tackle and there's so much there that differentiates itself from the rest. So because Metal Gear Solid 2 offers you all of this, plus its campaign, it's easy for me to say it's the best bang for your buck. So if I had to tell someone objectively what I think the best Metal Gear game is, I'd say it's Metal Gear Solid 2. And where you and I could probably get into a debate over how Metal Gear Solid 3's campaign trumps Metal Gear Solid 2's campaign, I think it would be a little difficult for you to explain how Metal Gear Solid 3 can rival the amount of content, the amount of new narratives, the amount of reinvented gameplay sections, and the amount of extra content that keeps bringing me back to Metal Gear Solid 2. I've been Pliskin. I'll finally finished a series that I started. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys on the next video.